Remember getting your first driver's license? That feeling of freedom, of the open road? It was incredible. But you also remember the rules, right? The signs, the tests, the speed limits. We've literally spent a century building a whole system just to make sure that powerful tool, the car, is used safely. Well, guess what? We're at that exact same moment right now. But this time, the vehicle is an autonomous AI agent.
I'm pretty sure this line is in every single driving handbook out there. And it's not just about cars, not really. It's a fundamental principle for any powerful technology. When something can act on its own with incredible speed and autonomy, you absolutely need a system of governance. It's a privilege, and that privilege has to be earned and managed. So today, we're going to explore the rules of the road for AI. And it turns out the framework we already used for cars is a surprisingly amazing blueprint for this. Drawing on some really smart analysis from IBM's Jeff Kroom, we can see that keeping AI agents in their proper lanes, well, it requires a system that stops them from just swerving all over the digital highway.
So let's dive into that blueprint. It's a 5-layer safety system, a really comprehensive structure for governing these agents that looks a lot like how we manage everything from making the cars to enforcing traffic laws.
Okay, so here are the 5 pillars: manufacturing, identity, keys, laws, and enforcement. Now, here's the thing you have to get. These are not just separate suggestions. They form a single, deeply interconnected system. Every layer supports the next one, just like the traffic system we all count on every single day.
First up, manufacturing. Okay, you wouldn't build your own car from spare parts in the garage and expect it to be safe, would you? Of course not. You buy one from a trusted company that follows safety standards. The very same idea applies here. Instead of trying to code an agent completely from scratch, the smart move is to use established, pre-built tools that give you a secure and reliable foundation to start with.
Next, every driver needs a license. This is the identity pillar. Think of it as the DMV for the AI world. We desperately need a system to issue and manage what are called non-human identities, or NHIs. And these credentials, they're absolutely crucial. They prove what an agent is, and they authorize exactly what it's allowed to do and what it's not.
Pillar 3 is all about the keys. Your car key gives you access, lets you start the engine. For an agent, that key is a digital credential. But, and this is a big but, here's where the scale just becomes mind-bending. We're not talking about one key you hang by the door. We are talking about millions of agents that need millions of keys. And that requires a hyper-secure vault to manage all those secrets safely.
And now we get to the actual rules of the road, laws. In our world, those are traffic laws. For AI agents, these are governance policies. And they're designed to prevent all the bad stuff we worry about with AI. Things like bias creeping in, performance drifting over time, hallucinations, and of course, the misuse of intellectual property. And finally, what good are laws if there's no enforcement? In our car analogy, that's the police. For AI, enforcement comes from gateways and checkpoints that basically act like cognitive firewalls. They check requests going in, and they validate responses coming out. So this 5-part system, it seems pretty perfect, right? Well, this is where things get really, really tricky, because this whole system has to pass one enormous stress test. And that stress test is scale. This beautiful, powerful analogy, this entire 5-layer system, it starts to buckle and then completely break under the sheer, crushing weight of numbers. I mean, just think about it for a second. The number of human users on the internet is already in the billions, but the number of autonomous agents, it's going to be so much bigger than that. We are hurtling towards a world with tens, maybe even hundreds of billions of autonomous agents, all operating at machine speed.
And this is exactly where our DMV for agents idea just smashes into a concrete wall. Our identity systems today were built for people, for a few million employees in a company, not for billions of agents that can be created and then destroyed in the blink of an eye. They were just never designed for this new reality.
So that really brings us to the core challenge, doesn't it? Can the identity infrastructure we built for a human-centric internet possibly handle a future that's going to be dominated by non-human actors? And the answer really is a hard no, not without a fundamental upgrade, right at the very foundation of the internet itself. So what does that upgrade even look like? Well, it looks like building a brand new foundational identity layer, specifically designed for these agents. And the best way to think about it is this.
We need a system of unique, verifiable digital license plates for every single agent on the network.
The solution here is to create a new, dedicated address space just for AI agents on the internet. You know how we have .com for commercial sites or .gov for government? It's like that. This would be a new top-level domain, or TLD, and it would be anchored in the internet's core address book, the DNS. A really interesting proposal is something like .ia for Intelligentsia Artificial, to serve as this foundational identity layer.
And this is the key. Once you have this foundational layer in place, our whole rules of the road analogy suddenly starts to work at internet scale. A car's license plate, that becomes a unique .ia domain name for an agent. Vehicle registration, that's now a DNS-anchored audit trail. Even ideas like speed limits and insurance find their digital equivalents in things like rate limits and clear liability models. It is truly the missing piece of the puzzle.
You know, all of this points to a much bigger, much more profound idea about how we build technology. It's really about the incredible power of the foundational layers that we choose to build everything else on top of.
This phrase, it just says it all. The infrastructure choices we make right now will determine what can be safely built tomorrow. I mean, the original internet's DNS wasn't just about routing traffic, it became the bedrock for all online trust. And we are at that exact same critical moment right now for AI agents.
Okay, so let's make this real. How does a solid foundation actually solve concrete problems? Well, with verifiable identity baked right in, major threats like prompt injection, privilege escalation, and data poisoning become dramatically easier to defend against. Why? Because you can validate requests and enforce permissions right at the source before they cause any damage.
So here's the most crucial point. You can't just bolt security on at the very end and hope for the best. Controls that are just grafted onto a shaky foundation will always fail under pressure. But security that is baked into a good foundation, starting with a universal system for naming and identity, that's the only kind of security that will actually scale and keep us safe.
When you get right down to it, we are in the process of paving the digital roads for the entire future AI economy. The architectures we're designing today, they're not just technical choices. They are fundamental decisions about what kind of future we can even build. So the question for all of us is, are we choosing the right destination?